January 20th proclamation that reserves asylum only for those who enter the U.S. at ports of entry. Trump said the ban was necessary to prevent an invasion at the southern border with Mexico. The White House responded saying, quote, "A local district court judge has no authority to stop President Trump and the United States from securing our border from the flood of aliens trying to enter illegally." Another federal judge on Tuesday blocked the Department of Homeland Security from ending temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants before the program's scheduled expiration date. And joining us now to discuss the court's decision to block Trump's order barring illegal border crossings from claiming asylum is Bobby Ann Cox, a civil rights attorney, legal analyst, and fellow at the Brownstone Institute. So good afternoon, Bobby Ann. Can you walk us through exactly what this ruling is about?
Yes, of course. So in this ruling, Judge Moss, who's a federal district court judge, meaning he's a trial court judge based in Washington, D.C., he is an Obama appointee, and he has basically ruled that President Trump overstepped his authority when he issued this proclamation back on January 20th of this year, which was his first day in office of his second term. And basically, the judge here is saying that the president can't alter federal immigration law, which is what the judge deems President Trump is doing with this proclamation. I don't think that it's a correct reading of federal immigration law, to be quite honest with you. So I do think the judge has erred here, but it is really an issue that is prominent in our minds right now, because just last week, the United States Supreme Court, as you know, we discussed this on last week's show, the United States Supreme Court did issue a decision limiting the power of these trial court judges at the federal level in curbing presidential power and authority, particularly when it comes to the safety of our nation and our sovereignty. So I don't think that this is a correct ruling, but that is basically what this ruling says, that the president has overstepped and does not have the authority to stop the illegal immigration coming through our southern border, which is just ridiculous. It's absolutely the wrong reading of our laws.
Okay, then what is the right reading? What is the right call in deciding where executive power ends and legislative authority begins in immigration law?
Right. So what we see here is the president, in that proclamation that he issued on January 20th, he actually cited the federal law that he believes gives him the power. And I do think it is a correct interpretation of that law. And basically what the law says is that if a president deems that there is a certain category or class of people that are entering our country, that are causing harm, damage to the country, it's a negative situation, that the president does have the power pursuant to that law to step in and to put restrictions, to either stop it altogether or to put restrictions as the president sees fit. So that language is very clear in the law. And unfortunately, the federal judge in this case has decided to ignore that very clear language and is instead saying the president does not have the authority to make this kind of a proclamation. Now, the judge did put a 14-day stay on his order so that the Department of Justice and the president can appeal the decision. So what that means is if he has a stay for 14 days, it means his actual ruling will not go into effect for at least 14 days from now.
So the White House said that it is going to appeal. Does that mean it has the potential to reach the Supreme Court? What is your analysis?
Yes, I think that this case would be a perfect case for the United States Supreme Court to hear. The appeal process is that first, the Department of Justice, that President Trump would have to go to the intermediary court, which is the Court of Appeals. And then from there, if whichever party doesn't like the decision, then they could appeal to the United States Supreme Court. So I do hope that this is something that will get in front of the Supreme Court, because in my mind, this language is very clear in federal law, and it is the judge who's overreaching here, not the president.
And Bobby Ann, you mentioned this earlier, and I want to go a bit deeper into it. President Trump's senior advisor, Stephen Miller, accused of the judge trying to circumvent the Supreme Court's recent ruling, right, on nationwide injunctions. Can you elaborate on that a bit more? What is your view?
Yes, so I do agree with that analysis by the president's advisor, Stephen Miller. What he is saying is, in essence, this judge has gone beyond his authority. And he's saying that the president absolutely has the power to control who's coming into our country. As I said, the federal immigration law that the president relies upon in his proclamation and in the lawsuit when the ACLU first brought this lawsuit in February against this proclamation, the Department of Justice has been arguing this exact language of the federal law. And so I do think that the interpretation that Stephen Miller has presented is correct. This judge is overstepping. He's trying to sidestep what the United States Supreme Court just ruled last week. And the judge, in essence, is saying, well, we now have a protected class of people that are allowed to come into our country. And in essence, as per Stephen Miller, the judge is saying that anybody on the planet basically can come to the United States and be granted asylum. That's not the way our laws work. That's not the way our Constitution works. People don't have a right to come into our country. How it works is we are a sovereign nation. We have laws that Congress has passed that the president is charged, as per the Constitution, to uphold. We also have a Constitution that says that we have to be protected, that the federal government, one of their jobs is to protect the states. So allowing anyone and everyone to come into our country unvetted and not through the proper channels is absolutely not, not only is it not a right, but it is absolutely ridiculous to say that anybody anywhere on the planet has the right to come into our country and that the president can't stop them. It's just absurd. It is the wrong reading of the law. And quite frankly, I'm shocked that the federal judge came to such a decision, because there's nothing in that law that even slightly supports his conclusion in this case. So as Stephen Miller is surprised by this judge's ruling, I'm surprised as well. It's just the wrong ruling here.
All right, that's a very compelling point you're making. I'm also wondering, and just one last thing, is there any precedent that we can look to in immigration cases like this, where national security concerns and statutory and constitutional limits are involved?
Yeah, there are many cases. There was a 2018 case, so that was during President Trump's first term, where, Trump was trying to do the same type of thing during his first administration that he's trying to do here, where he's trying to secure the border and stop this free-for-all, anybody can come in no matter what. And there was a lawsuit brought at that time. And the court ruled that, look, the president has authority here. You can't, if we want to look at what's been happening over the past 4 years under the Biden administration, the federal judge in this case, Judge Moss, said that in essence, the president doesn't have the authority to rewrite federal law and just can't change our immigration laws at whim. That is true. But let's look and see what happened for the past 4 years under Biden. Biden completely rewrote our federal immigration laws by refusing to enforce them. And he, in essence, said anyone and everyone can come in, and opened the border and didn't allow the border patrols and our law enforcement in general to do their job of protecting Americans and protecting our sovereignty. So, it's a double-edged sword here. You can't use this argument to defend on the one hand and then to use it as, a sword on the other hand. The rule is you cannot make federal government, the Congress makes the laws. The president enforces those laws. It's true the president can't change those laws, but in this instance, President Trump isn't changing the law. He's enforcing the law, and then he's working within the guidelines of the law, which singles out a presidential power in the law itself. Aside from that, we also have the Constitution, which says that the federal government must protect the states. It's one of the jobs of the federal government, is to protect the states from invasion. And President Trump declared an invasion at the southern border. That cannot be an overstep or an overreach when we have seen hundreds of thousands of people cross that border illegally under the Biden administration on a monthly basis. That was per month, those numbers. So in the June that we just had, that just ended last week, President Trump's numbers for the border were about 25,000. So they saw approximately 25,000 attempted border crossings in June. That number is down 82% from this time last year when Biden was the president of this country. 82% decrease. So, you know, we have to really call a spade a spade. We do have federal immigration laws and they need to be followed. That means you cannot just open a border and say anybody and everybody can come. You have to follow the rules. And unfortunately, if they don't like it, they need to change the law, and we have to follow the law and the Constitution as written.
Okay, Bobby Ann, it's always great to hear your insight. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, the Supreme Court has accepted 4 cases so far for its next term. 2 of them involve transgender athletes in women's sports.